Yeah, so stop.
I'm just saying.
3, 2, 1, action.
So hello everyone, it's Savidi and I'm back for yet another video, and I hope you guys are having a great time and welcome back to my channel. So I got this request to check this video out for you guys today, and I kind of promised that I'll check it out. And I don't know if you guys know me, when I make a promise I have to keep to it. That's why it's always scary. I'm always scared to make promises, because once I say I'll do it, I'll do it. And I want to say a shout out to Shivam, thank you guys for opening my eyes a little bit to the outside world, because I know I have traveled, I'm well traveled, but you know you cannot travel to everywhere and get that in-depth knowledge, honey. So let's get into this. So the title of this video is Dr. Shashi Tharoor. I'm sorry. Oh my god, I hope I'm trying when it comes to the pronunciation. Dr. Shashi Tharoor. You guys let me know how it's pronounced. Oh my god, I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce it right, but it's called the Britain Does Owe Reparations. Ain't that the truth, honey? Let's see what this is all about, okay? Are we ready? I'll be scared already. I hope the British don't come for me. Okay. By the way, this is what I'm wearing. Just giving you guys that kind of. Oh, honey.
Madam President, and gentlemen, ladies of the House, I, standing here with 8 minutes in my hands and at this venerable and rather magnificent institution, I was going to assure you that I belong to the Henry VIII School of Public Speaking. Okay. That, as Henry VIII said to his wives, I shall not keep you long.
Let's see.
But now finding myself the seventh speaker out of 8 in what must already seem a rather long evening to you,
right.
I rather feel like Henry VIII's last wife. I more or less know what's expected of me, but I'm not sure how to do it any differently. Perhaps what I should do is really try and pay attention to the arguments that were advanced by the opposition today. We had, for example, Sir Richard Otway suggesting, challenging the very idea that it could be argued that the economic situation of the colonies was actually worsened by the experience of British colonialism. Well, I stand to offer you the Indian example, Sir Richard. India's share of the world economy when Britain arrived on its shores was 23%. By the time the British left, it was down to below 4%. Why? Simply because...
Stop! You're lying. Wait, what? So that means it... Oh my gosh. Guys, let me know in the comments below if colonialism was in favor of your country, or if it was of advantage to you, or if it was disadvantage. Just let me know in the comments below, because there are reasons why I travel to certain places in the world, and certain places I don't see myself traveling to those places.
India had been governed for the benefit of Britain. Britain's rise for 200 years was financed by its depredations in India. In fact, Britain's industrial revolution was actually premised upon the deindustrialization of India. The handloom weavers, for example, famed across the world, whose products were exported around the world, Britain came right in. There were actually these weavers making fine muslin, light as woven air, it was said. And Britain came right in, smashed their thumbs, broke their looms, imposed tariffs and duties on their cloth and products, and started, of course, taking the raw materials from India and shipping back manufactured cloth, flooding the world's markets with what became the products of the dark and satanic mills of Victorian England. That meant that the weavers in India became beggars, and India went from being a world-famous exporter of finished cloth to an importer. Went from having 27% of world trade to less than 2%. Meanwhile, colonialists like Robert Clive bought their rotten boroughs in England on the proceeds of their loot in India, while taking the Hindi word loot into their dictionaries as well as their habits.
It's true. It's true.
the British had the gall to call him Clive of India, as if he belonged to the country, when all he really did was to ensure that much of the country belonged to him. By the end of the 19th century, the fact is that India was already Britain's biggest cash cow, the world's biggest purchaser of British goods and exports, and the source of highly paid employment for British civil servants. We literally paid for our own oppression.
You're kidding.
And as has been pointed out, the wealthy Victorian British families that made their money out of the slave economy, 1/5.
Guys, this is why I must be real with you guys. This is why when people are like the royal family, the royal family and all this stuff, I'm not kidding. I don't give a fuck about it. Like I don't care about that royalty. Oh, you are a commoner and you are not a commoner. You are a royal blood and that. I'm like, honey.
Wait a damn minute. Wait a damn.
The last time I checked, when it comes to your blood, you have O, A, AB, you know, AB positive, AB negative, O positive, O negative. Like that's all I know about blood. Red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets and plasmas. The last time I checked, I don't see nobody's blood being more royal than the other. All I know is that what is it O negative blood you can give to everyone, but it's hard for you to take from everyone, and I'm one of those, and it's so scary too, because honey, when you're someone that can give to everyone, but it's hard to get.
In the 19th century, owed their money to transporting 3 million Africans across the waters. And in fact, in 1833, when slavery was abolished, what happened was that a compensation of £20 million was paid, not as reparations to those who had lost their lives or who had suffered or been oppressed by slavery, but to those who had lost their property. I was struck by the fact that your Wi-Fi password at this union commemorates the name of Mr. Gladstone, the great liberal hero. Well, I'm sorry, his family was one of those who benefited from this compensation. Staying with India, between 15 and 29 million Indians died of starvation in British-induced famines. The most famous example, of course, was the Great Bengal Famine during the Second World War, when 4 million people died because Winston Churchill, deliberately as a matter of written minuted policy, proceeded to divert essential supplies from civilians in Bengal to sturdy Tommies and Europeans as reserve stockpiles. He said that the starvation of anyway underfed Bengalis mattered much less than that of sturdy Greeks. This is Churchill's actual quote. And when conscience-stricken British officials wrote to him, pointing out that people were dying because of this decision, he peevishly wrote in the margins of the file, "Why hasn't Gandhi died yet?"
You're kidding
me. So all notions that the British were trying to do their colonial enterprise out of enlightened despotism to try and bring the benefits of colonialism and civilization to the benighted heathen. I'm sorry, Churchill's conduct in 43 is simply one example of many that gave a lie to this myth. As others have said on the proposition, violence and racism were the reality of the colonial experience, and no wonder that the sun never set on the British Empire, because even God couldn't trust the English in the dark.
Period. Yeah, he's like, I'm out of here.
Let me take World War I as a very concrete example, since the first speaker, Mr. Lee, suggested these things couldn't be quantified. Well, let me quantify World War I for you. Again, I'm sorry, from an Indian perspective, others have spoken of other countries. 1/6 of all the British forces that fought in the war were Indian. 54,000 Indians actually lost their lives in that war. 65,000 were wounded, another 4,000 remained missing or in prison.
They don't teach
Indian
this in school.
taxpayers had to cough up £100 million in that time's money. India supplied 70 million rounds of ammunition, 600,000 rifles and machine guns, 42 million garments were stitched and sent out of India, and 1.3 million Indian personnel served in this war. I know all this because, of course, the commemoration of the centenary has just taken place. But not just that, India had to supply 173,000 animals, 370 million tons of supplies, and in the end, the total value of everything that was taken out of India. India, by the way, suffering from recession at that time and poverty and hunger, was In today's money, £8 billion. You want quantification? It's available. Second World War, it was even worse, 2.5 million Indians in uniform. I won't belabor the point, but of Britain's total war debt of £3 billion
How is this
in 1945 money, 1.25 billion was owed to India and never actually paid.
Oh my God.
This is sad that a particular race of people decided, everyone else is beneath me. You all have the same veins, but we can. I think we are of superior race, and the rest are. I don't give a fuck. I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck about those kind of mentality and thoughts. If you have that thoughts, don't come close to me, because if you think I'll look at you like, oh my God, I'm like, oh. I'm walking away. Like, I'm sorry, I don't look up, I don't exalt people because of their skin color, like put them at a higher. I'm not that person. I have worked with people from different races, and I'm like, and I'll see myself busting my ass, bringing the best results, and when I see the returns, I'm getting the lowest, and I'm like, wait, why? They're like, oh, and then they start telling you about your race, why you should be happy you have even this, like they're doing you a favor. Nicki Minaj said it, but she's like, I always give 100%, but I always get 10% or 20% of the result of my work. She was right. It's so sad.
Somebody mentioned Scotland.
You're kidding me.
Well, fact is that colonialism actually cemented your union with Scotland. You know, the Scots had actually tried to send colonies out before 1707. They'd all failed, I'm sorry to say. But then, of course, came union, and India was available, and there you had a disproportionate employment of Scots. I'm sorry, Mr. Mackenzie has to speak after me. Engaged in this colonial enterprise as soldiers, as merchants, as agents, as employees, and the earnings from India is what brought prosperity to Scotland, even pulled Scotland out of poverty. Now that India is no longer there, no wonder the bonds are loosening.
My gosh.
Now, we've heard other arguments on this side. There's been a mention of the railways. Well, let me tell you, first of all, as my colleague, the Jamaican High Commissioner, has pointed out, railways and roads were really built to serve British interests and not those of the local people. But I might add that many countries have built railways and roads without having had to be colonized in order to do so.
Guys, I'll say this. People of color, you have to listen to what I'm about to say. There is a reason why the colonizers are always trying to segregate you guys based on class, level of income, standard of living. You know why? Because that will give some of you like, okay, I think I'm better, I think I'm safer than this person, so it doesn't bother me. Guess what? When you don't have that unity, there is no way you guys can rise to the next level. You have to come together and work together if you want something better for your race and as people of color. Because your colonizers are smart. They're like, okay, you are the smart one. Let's take you and add to us, so that way you feel like you're one of us, but we always know that you're not one of us at the back of our minds. So that way you feel like you're not part of them. It's like, you know, when they say divide and conquer, that's what colonizers have been doing for centuries upon centuries upon centuries. They divide and conquer because they know that if all smarts comes together, no matter what level or class of living, they will take the world to the next level. And they don't want that, because then what happens to them? They become invalid. No one, sees them the way they should be. They want to be sane. And I'm just like, look at it, it's happening here in my country. Like, I know I'm an American, and sometimes I'm like, when I hear about what the guy in the White House is doing, I'm like, who? And then you see that tension in the atmosphere. You see people who have these racist tendencies having that strength, and like, okay, now I can say how I feel. I no longer have to say it in my kitchen or at the table. I can now say how I feel and how I feel about other races, because white supremacists, this is what brought about the KKK, the white supremacists and all this bullshit is because. So if you guys don't see this, it will always be the same. It will be a cycle of yep,